it doesn't help us figure anything out, but a lot of the accountings go to that. And there was a chemical poured on the body. We don't know how much, we don't know how big of an area, but it seems, when I say dispose of body and chemical, that's kind of the direction that my mind went, and I think it's kind of, Joe, you and I were talking, and Joe said, well, it could be that where the body was dumped, we're talking the 30s, we're not exactly ecologically friendly.
Absolutely, that's true. And let's be fair, I think that 2 of the bodies that were found with that kind of skin thing were found in very similar places. So it may just be that, the water
there were puddles of radioactive sludge.
Well, it's possible
you know what,
they
it
were
was
thrown
the
somewhere
30s.
that there was just crap sitting, and they fell into it, and it was absorbed just through osmosis.
Yeah.
I mean, osmosis happens on all materials, whether alive or dead, and that just had that reaction. So it could have been as simple as that, or it could be as nefarious as where I was going.
Yeah. Well, I know when I get rid of a body, I usually dump some alkali on it. But I mean,
no, we're done. Yeah. So that's all we know about this whole thing. We've got these 2 fairly solid theories about who might have done this.
Which bothers me because there's only 2 of them. 2 seems too easy.
I agree. Do you have a favorite? I mean, I have a favorite.
Who is your favorite?
I mean, the doctor, obviously.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think
The signs are too easy for me.
Yeah?
The doctor... Okay, I didn't know what Joe brought up. I will admit, the stuff that you brought up, Joe, that you found in your research, I hadn't seen. So that kind of corroborates a lot of stuff about the doctor. But again, the way that the police went about their investigations, and we've just got these 2 main subjects. What if who happens to have accidentally killed himself while being held?
Air quotes included.
Yes, air quotes. Thank you. It just seems a little too easy, and I'm not sold, especially if we go with the swamp murders, and there was what was the other location?
Newcastle.
In Newcastle.
I mean, that's true, though. I mean, that you're having that whole thing going on up there, but
so Sweeney wasn't a traveling doctor. Sweeney...
A lot of those happened after he was committed.
Way before.
Well, there were befores and afters, so, okay, well, that to me washes him out as a candidate.
Sure. I just like him.
Yeah, I think...
You just like the name. Because you like the play.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, I guess, if you were interested in more links to this story, you can, of course, check them out, as always, on our website, thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You may be listening to us there. You are probably listening to us on iTunes. If you are, feel free to leave us a comment and a rating. We love those things.
Yeah.
It's how other people find us. It's how we, continue to gain listenership, which is great.
We just keep getting awesome reviews on iTunes, which is fantastic.
We love them.
Love it.
But wait, do we have a Facebook page?
Yeah, we do. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, which you should like and join, respectively. If you forget to download the show, or you don't have time to download the show, you can always stream it on Stitcher. And you can always send us an email, particularly, if you are the Mad Butcher, or you know who he is, or you're a victim of the Mad Butcher. God, I hope none of those things. Please, I'm so sorry. The email address...
hard to type when you got no arms.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. The email address is, as always, thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And I think with that, we're done with this weird, creepy thing.
Until next week, that is. It is October.
That's true.
I really regret that we're doing these creepy stories this month. But okay, sorry guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, toodaloo, and remember, keep your head.
Yeah,
about you.
Yeah.
Thinking sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Well, hi there, everybody, and thanks for joining us. This is Thinking Sideways once again, and I'm Steve, as always, joined by
Devin.
And Joe.
And as Joe likes to say, we have another hard-hitting mystery to solve.
Absolutely. No. The mystery isn't hard-hitting. Our attack on our episode is hard-hitting.
Well, I've never quite understood how you went about that. So.
That whole hard-hitting thing.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's just a cliche.
You don't really want to, like, delve into the brain of Joe, do you?
No, not really.
Hell yeah.
No. Well, let's talk about today's mystery.
Yeah,
Okay.
We'll take the hard-hitting part off of there.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a place called Coral Castle, which some people may have heard of.
It's an awesome alliteration.
What's that?
The Coral Castle.
The Coral Castle.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even though it's actually made of like limestone.
Shh, no spoilers.
Okay, sorry.
Well, the thing about Coral Castle is we know who made it and we know when it was made, but we don't quite know how it was made, which is kind of where all of the questions come from. But we should probably start with who made it, because we do know that.
This guy with an unpronounceable name.
I can pronounce it, because I
You
watched a video on YouTube. His name is Edward Leedscallan. Scalman.
Leedscalman, yeah.
Yep, Leedscalman.
Scallion. Sounds like a pirate name.
Yeah.
Kind of when you say it that way.
Sorry.
I'm just going to call him Ed or Edward from now on because it's much easier.
Yep.
Ed was born in 1887.
Hey, 100 years before me.
Yes.
Wow.
In Latvia.
Not
Were you born in
exactly.
Latvia?
You know what?
No,
You know
okay.
where Latvia is?
Not exactly.
It's one of the Baltic states. It's really close to the Baltic anomaly.
Ooh.
That's right.
Oh, no.
Edward left his native country of Latvia. He had a pretty bad reason for leaving. He was engaged, and he was engaged to a girl who, according to legends, they always say her name is Agnes Scuffs or Agnes Skvust.
Yeah, Scuffs is there's a lot of contention around that, right? Because it's not even a Latvian. It's not even a properly formatted Latvian word.
Yeah, it's phonetically written is
Yeah.
what I can
Yeah.
I gather from reading her actual name.
That was my take on it too, but you'll see that around the internet.
You do.
People saying, no, it's not even legit.
Yeah.
I think Scuffs is not, or Scuffs was maybe better, but
But
then
here's the even better part about her name is, according to some of the research that I found, that's not her name. Joe, you're gonna have to help me with how to pronounce this. Is this Hermione Lewis? Do you know how to say that with the?
No, I don't know what that little umlaut means in Latvian.
It's not even an umlaut. It's a.
It's a double dot. I don't know what it is,
Is it?
but the thing is.
Let's call her Jane Doe.
Agnes. He was engaged to Agnes, regardless of how you say her name, and he called her his Sweet 16 because she was 16, and he was 10 years older than her. Because in that day and age, an older man always married the younger girl.
Oh yeah.
So he was 26.
He was 26. And he, reportedly what happened is the day before their wedding, she called it off. He was heartbroken, and he left. And he moved to the continental United States, so he worked, I've seen records that he worked in Canada, and that he worked in Texas, and a couple of different places.
Yeah, I think
doing manual labor.
Yeah, he was actually a logger in Canada, which may explain how he got some expertise in moving heavy objects.
Yeah, he was did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, back in those days, there was still a lot of old growth around. So those trees were.
That was
big,
before we logged the hell out of it
That
all.
was before we logged it all up. I
That was
know.
actually exactly when we were logging it all out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, she called the wedding off. It was 1913, and he moved to the U.S. and was working for about 6 years until 1919 when he got a little bit of tuberculosis. Just a small case.
Just a smidge of tuberculosis.
Yeah, even a smidge is not such a good thing.
No, it's not. And,
You know, my grandfather got that. They were actually going to quarantine him. They were going to like lock him up in a tuberculosis hospital. So he lived in Los Angeles at the time. He and my grandmother did. And so basically, they bought a small house out east in the desert of Los Angeles in this little town called Hesperia, and he had to promise to just stay in the house and not go out.
I remember you talking about that before.
So he was basically under self-house arrest, but he figured it was better than being stuck in an asylum.
Yeah, that's true.
They still quarantine, don't they still quarantine people with TB?
Yeah, because it's very,
It
it's easy to contract.
Yeah.
Very.
Ed moved to Florida because the doctors told him that the weather there would be better for his condition.
Oh, so short of, they didn't even threaten to quarantine him. They were just like, hey, move to this place.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Yeah.
okay.
You could go to somewhere where we're
Yeah,
not.
Don't talk to anybody and smoke a lot of cigarettes. You know that actually used to treat tuberculosis with
Yeah,
with-
yeah, that's we've talked about that one.
And the most favored one was the cool, refreshing taste of Lucky Strikes unfiltered.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Ed says that he cured his tuberculosis through the aid of magnets. So he didn't evidently have that bad of a case of tuberculosis, but he did have it. But we're going to start hearing about magnets more and more as we talk about him. But he said he cured himself using magnetism, which is hard to believe.
I have to say, if he really did that and he didn't share that technique with the rest of the world, then it's rather selfish of him. You know?
I feel like he tried to share it.
That's
I mean,
true.
as
People
we
stopped.
go further, we'll
Yeah.
learn more about him.
Yeah.
He tried to share some of his information, and people were like, "Wow, you're a crazy person."
Yeah, I know. He did author some pamphlets and
Yeah.
He did.
things. Yes.
Well, when Edward got to Florida, he bought a piece of property in Florida City, which is on very, very southern tip of Florida. It's really far south.
It's like 30 miles south of Miami.
Yeah, yeah.
And Miami's pretty dang south.
It is
I can tell
really
you.
south. I believe, if I remember right, at the time that he bought it, it was the southernmost city in the continental U.S. that he moved to. It was one of the last cities before you got to the Keys.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's still the case, but that was the case at the time that I read.
Might still be.
Yeah, I don't know. But he went down there. He bought a piece of ground, and then what he started to do was he started to build a monument to his ex-fiancée as a way to impress her, according to what he said.
As a way to convince her that he's a loon. Yeah.
Is that he loved her still, and that he was pining for her, and look at all these things I've done for you.
I wonder if he was busy constructing a castle back in Latvia, and she just sort of took a look at that and said, "You know what? I think I'm breaking off."
Maybe that was the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be, but the thing about, he worked on this for 30 years, and she never came and saw what he built in her honor.
Of course she didn't. Would you?
Friggin'
No.
Jane Doe, you know? I hate her.
So what Ed did is he began to build monolithic structures. He would carve out stones, these giant ton or multiple ton weight stones, and he would erect them on his property. Well, at one point, he decided that he didn't like Florida City, and according to the legends, it's because they were planning a subdivision near him, and he was weirded out by having other people near him, so instead he decided he'd move to Homestead, Florida.
Yeah, he
which
was
is
a private guy.
He's very private.
Yeah.
And
Kind of,
Homestead's about 10 miles away. He bought a chunk of ground there, and over the course of 3 years, every huge piece of stone that he'd put in place, he moved to this new location, which is a lot of work. Like,
Yeah.
nobody saw him working on his stuff. Nobody saw him loading the trailer, because what he was doing was putting it onto a trailer and then having a friend haul it by tractor the 10 miles down the road to his new place. Obviously, moving all this stuff, a lot of work. Did I mention his build at all? No, I haven't. Ed was 5 foot tall
Yep.
and weighed about 100 pounds.
Yeah.
He was smaller than I am.
He was smaller than you are. He
Yeah.
was an itty bitty guy, and he was building these giant stone structures. And then at one point, he moves them all to this new place.
And very fortunately for him, he didn't lose control of any of these monoliths and had them squash him.
No, he never did get squashed that we know of.
No, that's not how he died even.
No, it's not how he died.
And he would have died if one of these things had fallen on him.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He moved some big rocks.
He really did, and I think we mentioned this just briefly, is that no one ever saw Edward working on any of these monoliths.
Well,
Okay,
That's not
according to
entirely
legend,
true. Yeah.
no one saw him working on it. He would work on things at night, and according to the legends, if someone was watching him, even if he didn't see them, he would just stop working until they left, and then he would start working again, which is part of the air of mystery about him.
How did he know? Yeah.
How did he know? Well, Ed worked, he owned his property, and he worked on it. And he worked on it until 1951. So, like I said, it's about 30 years he's been doing all this work, and he's been erecting all of these monoliths and doing all this carving.
And by the way, conducting guided tours of the place for anybody that wanted to come by and ring the doorbell.
For
Yeah.
10 cents.
10 cents.
That was
You
pretty
come
awesome.
by, and this guy would come down from his little tower.
You ring the bell twice.
Yeah, he had a residence in his castle tower. And
He built the castle tower for himself.
Yeah, you pay him a dime, and he'd come down and give you a tour.
And he wrote, he didn't have a formal education, but he believed that he had figured out a lot of science, and he didn't believe that modern science was right about a lot of things, including magnetism. He really was believed he'd figured out electricity and magnetism, and he wrote all these pamphlets and handouts, and so he was selling those to people who would come and visit the site as well. Oh, you want a dime? Come on in. You want one of these? It's, I don't know, a penny or a nickel or whatever he was charging for them. People would buy them.
Yep.
So he was making a decent living on it.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say he was making more than a decent
He's,
living.
yeah, he obviously was not hurting for money.
Yeah, good for him, too. He deserved to be rewarded for all that hard labor.
Indeed. And
Yeah.
he was a tough old bird. He was 64 when he died. Being a tough old guy, what did he do? He didn't feel good one day. He got up. He put a sign on the door that said, "Going to hospital." He walked to the bus stop. He got on the bus, and he went to the doctor
In Miami.
in Miami, which
30
is,
miles north.
which was like a 2 or 3 hour bus ride.
Yeah.
Several hours on a bus. We don't know when, but at some point, either before he left home or while he was on the bus or while he was at the hospital, he had a stroke.
Yeah, I thought it was on the bus, but
Yeah, and again,
know, I
this is
could
one
be
of those
wrong.
things you can't. I
Yeah.
keep seeing different places, and somehow during all of this, when he was sick, he got a kidney infection, and the kidney infection is what killed him. But according to accounts, some say 3 days, some say it took up to 28 days for him to die. But tough old guy.
Yeah, but didn't they have antibiotics back in those days?
I don't know if they didn't diagnose it right or what the deal was, but yeah, that's what killed him, was the infection of the kidney. Maybe it did irreversible damage before they caught it. I mean, it's again one of those things. The records are not really easy to get to, so I don't know exactly what it was. But we've talked about
Not
Ed
important
enough.
anyway. He died.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. So Ed died. We should probably now talk about Coral Castle a little
Okay.
bit, the actual site.
yeah.
You guys want to go there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we hop the time machine and we'll go back to 1940s,
All right.
1950s and check this place out.
All right, the Wayback Machine.
Can we-
Yeah. Actually, let's go back a little further. Let's go back to right when he started it.
No.
You don't want to wait? You want to go back to
No,
like,
but I
what-
do want to. Can we stop for snacks?
Well, yeah, we can stop for snacks, but only if you promise not to drop any food this time.
Yeah, I found a mummified French fry the other day that I know was from our trip to ancient England. You remember that? The two
So-
princes in the tower?
So you found a chip?
Hey, who got the cheese?
Oh, sorry.
Why did we not build in windows in this thing? I need to crack
Where's the
one.
ventilator?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, here we are. We're in Florida.
Yay!
At Coral Castle in the 40s.
Yay!
Yeah. Now, okay. So first you're
Everything's
gonna
in black and white. It's amazing.
First thing to look around. I mean, you're going to see this place is not that big.
Yeah.
It's about 200 yards by 200 yards, so it's
Wow.
it's not a big estate or a big chunk of ground that we're standing
What's
on.
200 yards compared to something for me?
About
Twice.
600 feet.
Yeah, 200 yards is twice the length of a football field.
We know that doesn't work for
It
her.
actually
Oh, yeah.
works a little bit this time.
Oh, does it? Okay.
little.
Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
it's not a big place, but
Yeah.
you're going to see there's all these giant stones that are erected. I mean, we're seeing here that we've got it's all limestone, by the way, which is
Oh.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And
What's it made of? The limestone.
Well, it's what they call oolite. I
Oh.
believe is how you pronounce it.
Oolite is like a creamy, buttery spread that you put on your rolls.
No.
No, not this time.
No.
no.
Is that oolite or is that oolite? I'm serious. Is it oolite or oolite?
I think it's two O's, so I'm going to say ooh.
Ooh.
Oolite.
Oolite. And oolite is made out of fossilized shell and coral, right?
Right. So
that's why it's coral.
I think that's why it's called coral.
Well,
cap.
no, it's like it's limestone that has some fossilized shells and corals in it, but it's mostly actually sedimentary.
Okay, so it's basically
stone.
limestone.
Yeah.
Thanks for crushing my dreams.
Sorry, man.
But no, I mean, as we're looking around, like I said, these things are really big, and we're looking at these stones. The walls, they're about 3 foot thick. They're 8 foot high, and each section's about 7 foot across. So these are big slabs of stone that Ed was quarrying right here on the site.
And there's no seams. I mean, you can't see light through
very
those
tight seams.
Yeah,
and
everything is
no mortaring or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yep, it's very tight. We've got over here, we've got some rocking chairs, giant stone rocking chairs, which actually rock.
I want to sit in one of those. Can I?
Have at it.
Awesome.
Don't break it.
Don't get your
it's
foot
comfy.
underneath it.
What's crazy about these rocking chairs is they are so well done that they actually rock. So their center of gravity works. It's not like a big heavy thing that just sits, which is pretty amazing when you think one guy carved this all by hand.
He was actually, it appears that he was a pretty competent designer. He did some, I mean, the door, for example, we'll get to that, I know, but the door was an amazing piece of work.
Well, let's talk about the door. The door is about 6.5, 7 foot tall, and it's just a rotating door. It rotates on its center axis. Now, the really interesting thing is that, okay, so he had to put this thing in place.
Yeah.
The awesome thing is that according to the legends, it was so well balanced that a child could open it with the push of a finger. Okay, well, it was really well balanced, but nobody knew how he did it. It wasn't until about 20 years or so ago, maybe 30.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s, you're right.
Yeah.
The door stopped working.
Yeah, so they had to fix it.
They had to fix
And
it.
that's when they figured out how he did it.
They had to bring in a crane, like a several ton crane that could pick up several tons at a time. And then what they figured out is he had an axle with a giant truck bearing in the center of it.
Yeah.
And that's how the whole thing rotated.
Yeah, and the bearing had rusted out over the years.
Yep.
So,
and when they fixed it, it didn't work as well. And then it broke again years later, and they fixed it again, and now it works
broke
even
again.
worse.
Yeah, it broke again not that long after. Considering that it lasted so long after he put it in place.
Yeah.
By mysterious means.
Well, it's, more proof that they just don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't.
Yeah. So anyway, but my hat's off to the guy.
Yeah.
And he was kind of wacko, but...
Well, he did crazy things. I mean, he did these giant stone circles and globes that are supposed to be the planets. He's got phases of the moon with a moon pool with a star carved in the middle of the pool. There's tables and chairs that have shrubs growing in the middle of the table. It's on a giant scale, but it's a little weird.
There's some
but it's
stuff
pretty
that's,
freaking cool.
It's actually aligned with the stars, right?
Yeah, the obelisk.
That's aligned with the North Star.
The obelisk, that obelisk over there?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
And you'll see there's little wires going through the center, or there used to be wires going through the center of the hole, and that's how you could...
Well, there are right now because we're in 1951.
You're right.
Yeah.
I forgot.